Want to speak real Finnish from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at finishpod101.com.
How to finally learn language in 2020, your New Year's resolution solution. So, January is over, but let me ask you a question. Have you set a resolution for this year? If you haven't, it's understandable. Most people end up failing with their resolutions. You set one, you try to do it in January, and by February, there's no progress. Doing it is no longer fun, or you get sidelined by something else. So you quit and put it off until next year, or whenever the guilt of quitting your goals comes back to haunt you. So, what's the problem with setting resolutions? Why do we keep failing? First of all, regardless of what most people say about New Year's resolutions, setting goals, whether on January 1st or any other time of the year, is a good thing. You have to know where you're going and what you want to achieve. Otherwise, you'll be floating around aimlessly from one language app to another and have nothing to show for your time spent. But the problem lies with the goals that people set. For example, most people set goals like, I want to master Chinese, or I want to lose weight, or I want to be fluent in Japanese. And based on these kinds of goals, here are 3 reasons why 90% of New Year's resolutions fail. First, resolutions fail because they are not specific and not measurable. Take a goal like, I want to master Chinese this year. The problem is that's a very vague goal. What do you mean by master? Do you want to speak about the economy, or do you just want to have everyday conversations? And can you really measure how much progress you need to master the language? The second reason is they are unrealistic. You might think, but isn't it good to set huge goals and aim for the stars? It's not bad, but if you say, I want to be fluent by September, is that realistic for you? Are you ready to commit yourself to nothing but language learning, 6 to 8 hours a day nonstop? The answer is no for most people. The third one is there's no action plan. The problem is you'll still fail even with a specific and realistic goal if you don't know when and how you're going to do it. For example, when will you study? How long will you study every day? And how will you study? So now you know why most people fail with their New Year's resolutions. Then how do we set New Year's resolutions and actually succeed? Here are the 3 rules for successful goal setting. Remember, your goals must be 1. Specific and measurable, 2. Realistic, and 3. They must have an action plan. Yes, the complete opposite of everything you heard earlier. For example, let's say you're learning Italian this year. Instead of saying, my goal is to learn Italian this year, set a specific, measurable, realistic goal for the month, like speak 3 minutes of conversation by February 28th. And you can also set a yearly goal, like 30 minutes of conversation, and work towards that. The whole point is 3 minutes is measurable. You set a timer, time yourself, and know when you reach it. It's realistic. Instead of saying, I want to learn the whole language, you're just aiming for 3 minutes for the month, and maybe 30 minutes for the year. So ask yourself, do I have time to learn enough of the language to speak for 3 minutes? That will vary from learner to learner. But 3 minutes sounds much more realistic than I want to master a language. Finally, you still need an action plan for your goal. And for that, you need to answer these questions. When will you study? How long will you study every day? Where do you plan to study? How will you study? What is your study schedule? This is the most important part because this tells you when and how to study. If you don't answer these questions, you'll have no idea what to do and you'll quit because you have no routine to stick to. So for example, when will you study? I'll study at 9 p.m. on weekdays. How long will you study every day? I'll study for 20 minutes. Where do you plan to study? I'll study at home, in the living room, on my computer. How will you study? I'll listen to 1 audio lesson a day for 5 days. What is your study schedule? From Monday to Friday with audio lessons. I'll listen to the lesson, then go through the lesson notes for 20 minutes each day. Here are a few more things you can do to improve your chances of success. Reward yourself after hitting a goal. Studies have shown that giving yourself a reward after reaching a goal is crucial to creating lasting habits and continuing to conquer more goals. Write down your small, measurable goal and put it somewhere you'll see it often. Now that you know why New Year's resolutions fail and you know what to do differently, it's time to set your goal. Our suggested goal for you for February 2020 is speak 1 minute of conversation in your target language. The deadline is February 28th. Remember to set your action plan as well. Just answer these 5 questions. Leave us a comment letting us know your answers, and then you're ready to go. Okay, Today's topic is how remembering your mistakes can help you learn faster. First, take a moment and think of a time when you made a mistake. Maybe you were at work. Maybe you were at school. Maybe you were shopping or in another public place. We can all probably clearly remember many mistakes we've made. We also remember the reactions of the people around us. Some people are understanding. Some people aren't so understanding. But why do we remember these situations so clearly? Psychologically speaking, negative things tend to impact us more than positive things. For example, if we're asked to choose between gaining friends or gaining money and losing friends or losing money, we'll choose not to lose friends or lose money, not to gain. This is called loss aversion. We tend to avoid losing more than we work on gaining. We spend time thinking about our negative past experiences to avoid them in the future. Because of this, negative events, like making mistakes, stay in our minds for a very long time. And this happens in language learning. If you make a language mistake while chatting with a native speaker, it'll probably be hard to forget. Yes, it's true that when we're learning another language, we don't always know when we've made a mistake. But when we realize we've used the wrong word, used grammar incorrectly, spelled something wrong or similar, we tend to remember the situation vividly. In some languages, just a tiny change in pronunciation, tone, or writing could make a big difference, so mistakes are a big source of worry for many learners. But the fact that mistakes are very hard for us to forget can be a powerful tool when learning a language. We want to avoid the feeling of embarrassment that comes after a mistake, so we work hard to correct ourselves. Past mistakes can motivate us to try harder. We can use our mistakes as a tool in our language learning, but we can't make these emotionally powerful mistakes by reading a textbook or even by taking a lesson with a teacher. The only way you can make these mistakes is by speaking in real conversations and messing up. So, what can you take away from this? Let's jump into the second part: how to use mistakes in your language learning. We can give advice like go ahead and make mistakes, but that's easier said than done. Here are 3 tips to help you make the most of your mistakes. 1. Speak in your target language as much as possible. Why? Because part of the learning process is making mistakes. Accept that mistakes are going to happen. If you're not making any mistakes ever, then you're probably not challenging yourself. 2. Look for opportunities to speak. Many learners have trouble finding public places to practice the language they're studying. See if there are language groups in your community or at your school. If you have trouble with that, look online and be creative. You don't need to search for groups specifically for language learners. See if you can find a hobby discussion in your target language. Maybe you'll find a news discussion group. Think outside the box. Find somewhere to practice and make mistakes. When you do mess up, you'll probably remember it. 3. Build on your experiences. Think carefully about your conversations after you have them, and work to make them longer each time. If you made a mistake in your first conversation, think about how to fix it. If you said only a few sentences in your first discussion, work to speak for 15 or 30 seconds on the next discussion. Challenge yourself. Many learners have trouble finding opportunities to speak that work with their schedule and their level. If you're not sure where else you can practice, you can consider hiring a tutor. If you're a Premium Plus member on our website, you can practice with your teacher. It's still important, where possible, to practice and make mistakes in real-life situations. This will help you to more carefully reflect on your conversations and work to improve. It isn't quite the same as studying with a textbook or a hired tutor. This strong desire to avoid making a mistake will help you work to improve. You'll be motivated to try harder. This can help you learn faster. The easiest way to start writing and improve on your own. Most language learners start with reading or speaking first. We all want to speak. Typically, most learners start their studies by reading textbooks or articles online. But writing? Not so many practice writing right away, unless the language has a unique writing system. There are a few reasons you should consider writing when you're learning a language. Let's jump into part 1. 1. Why is writing an easy way to learn a language? So, why is writing easy? First, you don't need anyone to start improving right now. When it comes to language learning, we all want feedback and corrections. And for that, we either need a teacher or a learning program that can quiz us. But if you want to improve on your own without waiting on anyone else, or if you don't have access to a teacher, you can start with writing. You'll find out how in just a minute. Second, you don't need to worry about what to write. How does this work? The easiest way to start writing is to copy text from somewhere else. That way, you don't have to worry about what to write or how to spell things. Just get a piece of paper and a pen and copy things from a resource you're using. You can even try doing this with your favorite quotes or ideas. Copy them word by word. Third, it can help you build a strong routine. Imagine you copy 2 sentences per day. It's simple, and it just takes a minute or 2. That means you can stick to it on a daily basis. And if you can learn to stick with that, you can stick to other learning routines in the future. And fourth, you'll end up improving all areas of the language. How? Well, if you're copying out a few sentences a day, you'll end up indirectly learning a lot of words, grammar rules, and lines you can actually use, simply because you're exposed to them. And if you read what you write, you'll improve your reading and comprehension skills too. So, how can you actually start writing and practice? Let's move on to part 2. Part 2, how to practice writing with our lessons on your own time. Number 1, if you're taking our lessons, write out the phrases, sentences, and conversations by hand. This means writing every phrase and sentence that you learn in the lessons by hand in a notebook. You can also write out the conversations in the dialogue study tool, example sentences from the lesson notes, words and phrases from our vocabulary lists, and words and sentences from the Daily Dose app and the Word of the Day. Number 2, write short sentences to your Premium Plus teacher. If you're a Premium Plus member, write a message and send it to your Premium Plus teacher for review. In fact, as a first step, all new Premium Plus users have to write a self-introduction and send it to their teachers. Your teacher will review your work, send feedback, corrections, and help you improve your writing skills fast. You can even write something out by hand, take a picture of it, and send it to your teacher. Number 3, leave a comment on the lessons. After you're done with a lesson, be sure to use what you've learned, whether a new word or a grammar point. Leave a comment in the comment section, and our teachers will review it and give you feedback. Number 4, dictation. This may be best for advanced learners. Dictation is a study method where you write down what you hear as a way to test your writing and listening skills. You can do this with any one of our audio or video lessons. Number 5, create sentences using newly learned words. You can learn new words with our lessons, the word of the day, the vocab lists, and the core 2,000 word list, which gives you the 2,000 most frequently used words. And, as mentioned before, you can also leave comments for our teachers to review. Number 6, take the writing quizzes. With every lesson, you'll get review quizzes to help you master what you've learned. Just scroll down to the vocabulary section or click on vocabulary. Then click on Take a Quiz, and that's it. Now you know how to improve your target language on your own. Just copy things out. If you're having a hard time sticking with language learning, you'll find out how to fix it now. Let's jump into the first part. 1, how to map your routine and set your schedule. First, here's a quick question for you. Which of these would you rather have? A, the world's most comprehensive language learning resources, but a weak study routine. Or B, a strong study routine and average resources. Leave your answer in the comments. But there is a correct answer here. You want a strong study routine. Why? You can have the best app or textbook in the world, but if you don't use it because you don't have a learning routine or a habit, you won't learn anything. If you have a strong routine and work ethic and just a dictionary and internet access, you'll learn more than someone with the best program and no routine. The point is, we are creatures of routines and habits, and our habits can be used for good or bad. They make us or break us. For example, if you have a bad habit, like going to bed at 4 a.m., you'll always feel tired when you wake up for work or school in the morning. If you have a good habit, like exercising regularly, you'll have energy and good health. Once we have a routine, we tend to stick to it. If it's a bad routine, it can do a lot of damage. But if it's a good routine, it can help us enjoy incredible results. We can also use routines to our advantage by applying them to work toward our goals, like language learning. How do you create a strong language learning routine? Here's one way to do it. First, write down your current daily schedule. For example, 7 a.m. I wake up. 8 a.m. I leave the house. 8:20 to 8:50 I'm on the train. 9:10 a.m. I arrive at work. 1 p.m. I go to lunch, and so on. Write out your daily schedule for the whole week. Make it detailed. If you write out your schedule, you can see your existing daily routine. You can see where you can fit language learning into your existing routine, the routine that you're used to, instead of trying to create a new routine. Why does this matter? For example, some people will look at their schedule and see that they wake up at 8 a.m. They think that if they wake up at 7 a.m., they can have an extra hour for language learning. But for many of us, that approach usually doesn't work because it's not something we're used to. You're trying to wake up early so you can learn a language. You're trying to implement two brand new routines that you're not used to. For many people, this results in failure. Even if you do wake up at 7 a.m., will you get out of bed immediately and jump straight to learning every day? Or will you lose motivation after a few days because you missed that hour of sleep? So map out your weekly schedule. Once you understand where your time goes, find an existing part of your routine that you can fit language learning into. For example, if you take the train in the morning, you can use that existing routine and learn some language during that time. If you always eat lunch at 1 p.m., watch a video lesson during your break. If you always cook at 8 p.m., play some audio lessons in the background. If at first you have to start with multitasking, it's better than nothing. You can at least get used to being exposed to the language while you work on dedicating more time and attention to it. Now, let's jump into part 2. 2. How to choose the learning medium that's right for you. Before you begin learning, it's important to understand what kind of learner you are. Are you a visual learner, or do you learn by reading? There's something called the VARK model, and it's an acronym for 4 learning styles: visual, auditory, or listening, reading, writing, and kinesthetic, meaning hands-on, or actual practice and trial and error. You need to understand what kind of learning resources are best for you. So, how do you determine what kind of learner you are? This depends on you. Do you like watching videos, listening, reading, or writing? Or do you prefer more hands-on practice? There's no wrong answer. It depends on what kind of learner you are and what you like. Also, think about your past language study experience. Did you remember vocabulary words better when you read them from a book? Or was listening to a podcast more helpful for you? How do you usually remember information best? This helps you choose the learning medium or study tools that are right for you. We'll talk more about this in a few minutes. For now, determine what kind of learner you are. Leave us a comment and let us know. The last thing you need to keep in mind is your study ratio. Your study ratio is how much time you spend absorbing information, input, and how much time you spend producing language, output. What you want to strive for is about 50% input and 50% practice or production, producing that language. So, if you read for 30 minutes, then you want to practice for 30 minutes. You can't just consume, you must practice. Otherwise, it's not going to stick as fast. All right, we've covered routines and learning types. Let's move on to part 3. 3. The language tools you'll want for your learning style. In this last part, we're going to cover all the resources that you can take advantage of based on your learning style. But remember, if you're a visual learner, that doesn't mean you should shun resources that don't fit that style. Sometimes it's not practical to watch a video. For example, if you're driving, audio is a much better choice. So let's jump in. If you're a visual learner, take advantage of our video lessons in the lesson library. We have them across all levels, from absolute beginner to advanced. These will be your main source of learning. Use the vocab slideshows. You'll find these on every lesson page and vocab list. The slideshows make it super easy to learn and review words. Just press play and watch. You can put it on a loop and watch for as long as you want. Next, if you're an auditory learner, then take advantage of our audio lessons. You can also use dialogue audio tracks. These give you just the conversation from that lesson, and you can use these tracks to immerse yourself in conversations. Next, if you prefer reading and writing, we include lesson notes and transcripts for every audio and video lesson. So, if you're taking a lesson, read along. The lesson notes include extra grammar explanations, vocab lists, and cultural insights that are not available in the lesson. You can also check out our extensive reading books in the lesson library. These are simple one-line per page books that will build you into a confident reader. If you prefer writing, you can copy out the lesson dialogue into your notebook. You can leave comments on our lessons with sample sentences. You can keep a daily journal in your target language. Plus, you can send messages to your Premium Plus teacher and practice writing. They'll correct your mistakes, tell you how to express yourself in a natural way, and help you improve fast. And finally, if you're a kinesthetic learner and prefer hands-on experience and trial and error, definitely use our Premium Plus teachers and practice with them. You can do that via the My Teacher Messenger on the site or in the app. Use our spaced repetition flashcards. These cards quiz you on words and phrases and help you master them fast. They sort the words for you and quiz you accordingly. So, if you don't know a word, you'll keep seeing it over and over until you get it right. And if you do know it, you'll see it again in a few days. It'll pop up every now and then just to refresh your memory. Also, take advantage of our lesson quizzes. You'll find these in every audio lesson, and these test you on the words and phrases you learned in the lessons. You can also practice speaking with our voice recorder. You'll find this inside the dialogue tool. You can record yourself and compare with native speakers. You can keep practicing until you can say the lesson dialogue at a native level. There are tools for every learning style. So, today you learned 1. How to map your routine and set your schedule. 2. How to choose the learning medium that's right for you. And 3. The language tools you'll want for your learning style. How to improve your language and speak more through preparation. Okay, let's get into part 1. Why you should prepare for conversations ahead of time. If you're a beginner, you can probably relate to this. When it comes to speaking, you tend to run out of things to say. And that's because you don't know enough of the language to express yourself. And that's where preparation comes in. You may think that the conversations we have in our daily lives are spontaneous, that you can't prepare for them. You're right to an extent. But imagine meeting someone for the first time. Both of you will go through some common questions and phrases, like, what's your name? My name is, where are you from? And how long have you been studying the language? As a language learner, you'll have these kinds of conversations with almost every native you meet, guaranteed. They'll always ask you about how long and how you've been learning. And even with your friends, some conversations start the same way. For example, you say things like, hey, how are you? How are things? How was your weekend? My weekend was good, and you? Let's say you went to a restaurant this weekend, and now you want to talk about it. Well, that allows you to prepare and learn some phrases like, I went to a restaurant. The restaurant had delicious food. The point is, some questions and phrases come up often in conversations, so it makes total sense to master them ahead of time. And you can always plan ahead and prepare for things you want to talk about. When it comes time to speak, you know what to say, how to respond, and you don't run out of talking points as quickly. So, how do you prepare? Let's jump into part 2. The first thing you can do to prepare is check out our 25 questions you need to know lesson series. This series is specifically designed to help you with the first-time conversations you'll have with native speakers. You'll learn the 25 most common questions and answers used in conversations. Just listen to the lessons, repeat out loud, then put what you learned to use. These will serve as talking points so you can keep your conversations going. Number 2, print out the curriculum for this lesson series so you can review all of the lessons at once. The curriculum gives you the lines and vocabulary used in all lessons up front, so you can use this to review key questions and responses. This will allow you to control conversations and ask questions instead of just having the native speaker ask you all the questions. In other words, you'll sound like a fluid, confident, and experienced speaker. Number 3, check out our printable conversation cheat sheets. This is another free resource that gives you lines and words for all kinds of topics. For example, talking about hobbies, your family, and much more. Number 4, ask yourself, what do you want to talk about? Come up with some topics, and for each topic, write out potential questions and phrases that would come up in a conversation. For example, if you want to talk about restaurants, you can have lines like, my favorite restaurant is, my favorite food is, what's your favorite restaurant? And then run these lines through a translation app. It won't be perfect, but it'll give you lines to use that you can correct later. Number 5, look for lessons that are related to your topics with our lesson library. On our site, we have hundreds of lessons that teach you conversations. So if you're looking for lessons related to restaurants and food, you'll get all kinds of conversations that you can use for yourself. And number 6, if you're a Premium Plus user, get in touch with your teacher via My Teacher and try a conversation with them. They'll help you every step of the way, correct your writing, and give you the lines to use in a conversation. That way, you can prepare ahead of time, and when it comes time to speak, you'll know what to say. Want to speed up your language learning? Take your very first lesson with us. You'll start speaking in minutes and master real conversations. Sign up for your free lifetime account. Just click the link in the description.